Happy Easter and welcome back to Tea with Tea. So today's video, as promised, is going to cover the second half of last video's submission. It says, at this point, I'm worried I'm going to hell because I'm questioning if God even exists. How an omniscient and loving God would introduce suffering, temptation, and evil instead of just preventing all of this. How could he subject me to this emptiness when he loves me? I'm going to talk to a pastor, but I don't have much hope that they won't just tell me to submit and pray again, like I haven't already tried that. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing this with us. So I want you to first of all imagine that there's this person that everyone is trying to set you up with. Your besties, your parents, everyone seems to think that both of you would be perfect together. So you eventually decide to give it a shot and finally ask them out. But as you're trying to get to know them, you notice that every time you question them in any way, they snap at you, make you feel really bad, and ask why you can't just trust them. I'm sure we can all agree that a critical part of getting to know or just generally building a connection with someone consists of being at liberty to freely ask them questions as the relationship goes on. And I don't know about you, but I don't care how much my parents respect him or how attractive my besties think he is. I will never willingly choose to spend nor trust the rest of my life with someone that I don't know, nor will I ever be able to fall in love with them. And I can sincerely say that being able to freely ask God questions not only strengthened my love for him, but also saved my relationship with him. For a very long time, I as well suppressed every question I had for God out of a fear of being a bad Christian, simply based on things that I'd been told. Until all those questions eventually caught up to me and made me question my faith entirely. And as I matured in my faith, I eventually learned that I had every right to just go straight to God and let him know exactly how I was feeling. In fact, not only does the Bible give many examples of well-respected men and women of God questioning him in times of doubt and still getting reassured and blessed by him, the Bible actually also encourages us to come to God with questions whenever we feel lost. Some examples include James 1:5-6 or Philippians 4:6-7. Like, what was the point of Jesus dying on the cross to bring us closer to God if we were always going to just ignore that access that we had to him whenever we wanted to understand him? For every confusion and doubt that I had, I would completely skip the option of asking God and go straight to YouTube sermons, pastors, or friends that I believed to be more religious than me. I grew up a religious Christian, but it was only after like 19 years that I realized that I didn't even understand why exactly Jesus died on the cross for us. Yes, I knew what the Bible said, but I eventually got to a point where I was like, wait, what does this even mean? Mind you, I was one of those friends that others would come to ask about Christianity, because my religiousness made me look like I knew what I was doing. Meanwhile, the entire time, I didn't even understand the reason behind the entire foundation of Christianity. And don't get me wrong, Christian fellowship is beautiful. Having people to hold you accountable, encourage you to stay locked in, and to share their insights can be extremely helpful, especially during the moments where you haven't been as consistent with your faith. But understand that every single human being has been granted the same access to God. And like in any other relationship, our intimacy with him simply depends on how much effort we're willing to put into developing it. God has always found a way to answer every question that I've asked him. And so long as you're patiently and genuinely looking out for it, you'll always be able to tell when it's an answer coming from God. But please note that there's a difference between questioning and accusing. There's a difference between coming to God and saying something like, Lord, I want to believe that all things are working for my good like you promised, but how am I supposed to do that when these are the things happening in my life? Versus, God, if you really existed, my life wouldn't be like this. While you can question someone and still show that you have faith in them, accusing someone is a blatant indication of a lack of faith, and that's the difference. And from your submission, you're clearly coming to God not to condemn him or accuse him of being a liar, but because you're actually seeking his presence and reassurance. In fact, even in questioning him, you still acknowledge that you know that he loves you and is omniscient. So why should you be made to feel like you would be punished for seeking more of him? Understand that whenever you ask other people to explain to you who God is, their explanation is going to be mixed in with their own personal doubts, fears, experiences, upbringing, and even cultural beliefs. It's like you're having problems in your relationship, and instead of discussing your concerns with your partner, you're always going outside of your relationship to your friends to ask what they think. Guess what? Irrespective of whether or not your friends mean well or want the best for you, they're always going to interpret everything you tell them through their own personal lens, based on their own experience with relationships and probably their own insecurities as well. This is why I always emphasize that any Christian, or at least anyone interested in becoming one, should always prioritize getting to know God for themselves. Everyone hears God differently based on the experiences that He's given them. Like in any other relationship that you want to develop, you need to be able to respectfully come to God with all your concerns, even if that means telling Him that you want to be able to feel more of His presence. Trust me, God is not intimidated by any of your concerns. I hope that knowing that we're all trying to cope with these same feelings makes you feel less alone and more seen. I encourage anyone else who has experience addressing these same situations to let us know how they were able to cope in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and especially for your vulnerability. See you on Sunday. Bye!